If we no longer believe that our will is effectuated through the system, if bad actors tell us falsely that every election is stolen and that the only way an election is trustworthy is if they come out on top of it, then something, it tells you something not just about that person or that moment. It maybe wounds us as a democracy in a way that is hard to repair.
Yes. Rachel Maddow last night. What are they, the $37 million a year for 1 day a week? Is that what she gets? She has the memory of a gerbil. She has no idea what she's talking about. Rhodes Scholar, Oxford, Ivy League. Either a lot dumber than you'd think or just a flagrant liar, a fraud, a charlatan. Not to be confused with the Reverend Al Charlatan, also on the same television network. It's a cable television network. Well, happy Tuesday to you and welcome. I'm sorry I was out yesterday. I was doing my jury duty. I had jury duty yesterday. Guilty! I'm sorry, that just keeps coming out. Guilty! Me on a jury? Can you imagine? Truth is, I'd be the most fair and scrupulous juror that this city has seen in a long, long, long time, given the way that they run the circus here in the grand juries. And speaking of grand juries, President Trump indicted last night by a radical leftist daughter of a Black Panther. She's an extremist. She's a radical. She's anti-democratic. You know, as I like to say, the Democratic Party isn't. You know why I say that, don't you? I say that because the Democratic Party isn't. Isn't what, Chris? Isn't democratic. That's the thing about the Democrat Party. And keep in mind also, they're not liberals. They're leftists. There is nothing more remote when it comes to liberalism than the leftist. The leftist is a part of a mob, a violent mob, looting stores near you, sacking police stations, murdering people by the millions over the course of the last century. And make no mistake, these are not liberals we're dealing with. These are leftists. This is the left. This is the international left. The international left secures government power in order to abuse it. That's the whole purpose of power, is to abuse that power, to destroy your political enemies. And then, of course, you declare everyone to be your political enemies. And then you destroy everyone and everything. And one of the things you go after is faith and confidence in our public institutions. And you got to give them credit for that. They've been very, very effective at destroying faith and confidence in our public institutions because they're not liberals, they're leftists, they're radicals. And this radical Fani, don't say Fanny, Fani, because it's a Swahili name. And her father, the Black Panther, who's a radical and a lawyer and a defense attorney who likes to put criminals on the street to murder people because the left loves death more than you love life. Honestly, the Pope can't love life any more than the left loves death. So we've got that. Now it's President Trump. And what do we have, Michael? A total of how many? Was it 19 people indicted yesterday? Rudy Giuliani indicted, Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff, indicted, everybody indicted. I honestly think that Republican prosecutors across the country need to get to work indicting, and I think the RICO statutes thing, designed for organized crime, the RICO statutes might be perfect for the Democrats. Start charging them all with crimes for the collusion involved in the Hillary Clinton opposition research, which they falsely labeled the Steele dossier, and which people like penitentiary face John Brennan and J. Edgar Comey used to lie to the FISA courts to get illegal warrants to spy on the political enemies of the Democratic Party. You know, the FISA courts are so secretive, we don't even know who the judge is that they visited to get the secretive FISA warrants to spy. It's time to, on the Trump campaign, it's time to start charging Democrat political leaders with crimes. And any Republican prosecutor anywhere in America will do. Just start charging Democrats with crimes. They don't. It'd be better if they were real crimes that had actually been committed by the Democrats. But short of that, just start indicting people. Just start charging people. Put them in cuffs. Get some mugshots. Just start raiding homes and dragging people out by their hair and shoot their dog if you have to. You know, it's always a nice exclamation mark if you shoot their dog on the way out. So we got that. President Trump indictments came out last night, and boy, oh boy, 10 charges in the indictment, 19 people involved, 97 pages. And normally a RICO statute case like this one, according to all the legal experts, would take probably 2 years to prosecute. But the radical Mau Mau Black Panther extremist leftist, who's got a Swahili name and a Black Panther father. This is the Democrat Party today. Couldn't be more radical if they were burning a police station near you. Hey, wait a minute. They've burned lots of police stations and police cars and injured thousands of police and sacked and looted and plundered so many storefronts and businesses that they're fleeing cities. The businesses are, not the leftists, all over the country, from Seattle and Portland and San Francisco and Los Angeles and Chicago and Washington, D.C. and New York, because the Democrat Party is the party of looting. They're the party of mob violence. They're anti-police and pro-criminal. They're pro-crime and anti-law and order. And then when they secure power, they abuse it like Bolsheviks. They're like Lavrenti Beria heading the KGB under Joseph Stalin. And that's what this woman is, mau-mauing the flat catchers over here. Fannie T. Willis. Did you see she had new publicity shots taken for herself last week? She had a new banner made up to hang behind the podium with her name on it, because she's extremely ambitious, like Joseph Stalin. If there's anybody between her and the next stepping stone, they should probably start wearing body armor, because this woman's a radical. Just amazing. Amazing stuff, I'm telling you. So we got all that going for us. And lots and lots to talk about there. They are de-Americanizing America. This is the left. They have won enough power, secured enough power in the United States. They're anti-free speech. They're anti-free practice of religion, unless, of course, you're with the Temple of Satan, in which case they're big supporters because, you know, they worship the blood and the death. They are the left. They're not liberals. Keep that in mind. So I've got that going, and all kinds of crazy stuff there. The president has to turn himself in by the 25th of this month, 10 days from today. And they've announced already they're planning on mug-shotting him and making it as Soviet-style humiliating as possible, because they're basically commies. You know, I was thinking today, I told the story many years ago. It was 2008, and Barack Obama was running for president of the United States. I was doing our Humble Radio show in Washington, D.C., and I was at a bank machine, an ATM, automatic teller machine, on Connecticut Avenue, not too far from the radio station. And there were two young men at the ATM in front of me. They were Caucasian. They were probably about 30 years old. And one of them was speaking kind of loudly to the other one about Barack Obama, and he didn't like Barack Obama at all, this man. Very unusual in this city and in this part of this city. And the young man was kind of sputtering mad, and he said, he's a communist. He's a stinking communist. And I was standing right there waiting next in line, and only one in line at the ATM. And I kind of chuckled. And the guy turned at me and he, you know, he grimaced a little bit, and he says, he is a commie. And I just kind of smiled and said, I know. Now, I think that he thought I was being insincere, that I was being a wise guy or something. But he found the one guy within artillery range of this particular ATM that actually agreed with him. You know, he's Saul Alinsky. He was mentored by Frank Marshall Davis. Barack Obama was. And Barack Obama, we now know, well, he's behind the curtain with his operatives in regular, if not constant, touch with the Biden White House. Joe Biden obviously doesn't have two brain cells to rub together. He couldn't make a decision if it were time to go to the bathroom, and he probably should if it is. And you know, this is the left. This is the real God's honest anti-American, anti-capitalist. Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, Frank Marshall Davis, Saul Alinsky left. This is Barack Obama, an Alinskyite up the yin-yang, hanging out with William Ayers and Bernardine Dorn, confirmed communists, terrorists, and naturally tenured college professors, because where do you think the next generation of commies is going to come from if it's not college campuses? And these are amazing times. And in today's episode of Rising Communism in the United States of America, we have this absurd indictment of President Trump, who, of course, on the famous, notorious, infamous phone call to the Secretary of State of Georgia, said, "Oh, I need the 11,000 whatever votes." And what he also said is what he wants is a fair election. See? All I want is a fair election. And, is he allowed to believe that votes were stolen? He is allowed to believe that votes are stolen. Is that protected under the First Amendment? It is protected under the First Amendment. Is Rachel Maddow a left-wing extremist who's paid tens of millions of dollars a year for one day a week doing a bad job and lying to dozens of people across the country on MSDNC? I think you know the answer to that. So I want to get into that, and I've got plenty for you on that. And I've got a lot more. Joe Biden is the king of the morons is the headline on our stories sheet today, which we will be sharing with you this morning on the various Chris Plant Show platforms. We call them social media platforms. There's another one. Social media isn't. Social media isn't. Common courtesy isn't. Friendly fire isn't. The Democratic Party isn't. But we've got lots and lots to get to, as always. And I want to tell you my story about jury duty yesterday, because guilty, because I was down there for jury duty, and it turned into kind of an interesting, I've never had this experience before, the one I had yesterday. I was juror number 51. There were 54 of us in the courtroom, and the criminal was there, guilty. And I want to share with you what happened, because it was an interesting day at the Washington, D.C. courthouse, and I can't wait to tell you the story. Jake Tapper questions odd special counsel appointment with David Weiss. Maybe the whistleblowers were right, said Jake Tapper, who's yet another former Democrat political Capitol Hill staffer who dated Monica Lewinsky and then became a journalist. Because, journalism's a funny place. Not humorous funny, but like smelly funny. Biden administration begins canceling student loan debt for 804,000 borrowers. ABC News is very excited to see socialism really taking hold and the Democrat Party bringing Chicago politics national by buying votes, just outright buying votes. Here's a bunch of money. Vote for us, which is what's going on with the student debt forgiveness. Why don't we pay for their cars and their homes? They took out mortgages and car loans. Let's pay those off too. Commies, and they're stealing our money to buy votes. And the news media thinks that's great because they're filth. You can redeem yourselves if you're a member of the news media. You could tell the truth. Try, don't do anything too radical. Try a small truth one day, then go home and see if you have to get in a tub and open a vein or anything like that. But the truth will set you free. And I love the truth. I'm all about the truth every day. The truth. Also, we've got this now former Republican senator from Massachusetts sounding the alarm once again. He reminded him there's video of it of Joe Biden groping his wife right in front of him. He should have punched him in the face, probably, because that'd be what you do when a man is groping your wife right in front of you. And that creates a more civilized society, not a less civilized society. But the left is making our society much less civilized, aren't they? Democrats continue their shoplifting mob activity. And we've got now the Democrats are making another food desert in another Democrat stronghold in Washington, D.C. because they steal so much stuff. And the exodus of businesses from L.A. and San Francisco and other cities, businesses are fleeing because the Democrats are robbing them blind, and then the police can't do anything because of the Democrats. No end in sight of businesses leaving California. So we got that going free in Seattle, and the Democrats they're not liberals, they're the left. We got an Antifa activist who shot first at Kyle Rittenhouse. Remember this? We got, turns out he's a career criminal. Got that coming up. We got Hawaii. You see they got a media-free zone there? The Democrats have declared a media-free zone where the fire started because of all the non-native grass that the libs planted, and they stopped agriculture. Joe Biden said he has no comment about that, but he smiled, so that's okay. And they're coming for your children. The LGBTQIAA plus mafia, the gang, those criminals, they're coming for your children. And it's we got pronouns and Skittles and, or is it Skillets? I think it's Skillets. We got drag shows for children. We got the man power lifter winning the women's trophy. We've got lots of Democrat news for you today, and we are at 888-630-9625. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Guilty. I'm Juror 51. Juror 51. You may note that I'm here today, therefore I'm not back there. You might conclude that I was not selected to serve on the jury, and that would be true. That would be true. I'll get to that. And all of the, I got to tell you, the Democrat Party and transgenderism and children and rainbows for little kids, and now they're Bud Lighting the candy that Al Sharpton calls Skillets, and the rest of us call Skittles. It's pretty amazing. And here's an article: the far right's fixation on pedophilia is dangerous. Yeah, to pedophiles. And the Democrats are pro-pedophile now because, keep them away from the children. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Joe, calling from Baltimore, Maryland. Joseph, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, good morning, sir. Thanks a lot for taking my call.
You bet.
So I just wanted to tell you I'm a government worker, and I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. Mm-hmm. Joe's not my real name, but I worked for a previous agency where I had to sign a non-disclosure, non-disparagement agreement. I had to move on. I was pretty much forced into retirement or resigning for personal reasons because I spoke out against the religion of peace. And now, just so you know, I went to school to do what I do for the Fed, for the taxpayer, and I would be scared to speak out again about anything else because that first go-around cost me $30,000 in attorney's fees, and I barely got that back after settling, and it almost destroyed me, right? So at this point, seeing what they're doing to President Trump, I'm sure there's more people out there like me that would like to speak up at what they're doing to our country, even in my situation, but I'm petrified.
Well, it's the reign of terror of the left that has been unleashed in the United States of America by the Democrats. All right, it is a mad world out there, and the left has stolen the Democrat Party. I think the Democrat Party gave it to them, sold it to them because they're drunk with power and crazed. And we've got Rachel Maddow, who's supposed to be a smart person, but isn't, because while she has a high IQ, God, or in her case, dog, gifted her with a high IQ, she's wrong about everything. She's just wrong about everything. And she had Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton on last night. And, they're kind of in the same boat on pretty much everything. Wink, wink. And, boy, I'm telling you, now Hillary Clinton was condemning the idea that you would say that an election was not entirely legitimate, was stolen. But Hillary Clinton, of course, famously claimed that the election was stolen from her in 2016 when President Trump won and defeated her. She has been consistently since then, claiming that the election was stolen. That's the word that she uses, stolen. But when you're a fascist lefty, and keeping in mind that Adolf Hitler's party was called the Socialist Workers' Party, somehow that got lost in the in the sweep of history. But there it is. And Hillary Clinton has denied that Donald Trump was a legitimate president. She has claimed that the election was stolen by Donald Trump. She claimed that the Russians were involved, made up, and she paid money for that fake dossier, opposition research, which was used to corrupt our political system by J. Edgar Comey and penitentiary face Brennan, who voted for the Communist Party candidate for the presidency of the United States, Gus Hall. This is verifiably true. He bragged about it for years and years. I think he stopped bragging about voting for the Communist Party for the presidency of the United States and their perennial candidate, Gus Hall. But these are not your grandmother's Democrats, not even close. These, John F. Kennedy today, had he not been shot in the head by a communist or the CIA, depending, he might have been a communist at the CIA. It's release those documents, CIA. What the hell's the matter with you? So we got all kinds of crazy going on in the United States of America today. And part of that is Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. And boy, I'm telling you. And the Democrats, we have there are a number of compilations that have been made, video compilations, in our case, audio compilations, because we're on the radio. See how that, in case Democrats are listening, want to differentiate for them. But a number of compilations, the RNC made a great compilation of Democrats denying the election. I've been pointing out, in fact, maybe the article's in our stories list today. There was a very smart article that I read yesterday in which they pointed out something that I've been pointing out quite clearly for a number of years now, and that is that the Democrat Party, while they scream and yell and burn police stations over Donald Trump, saying that there was chicanery in the 2020 election, the Democrat Party at the very highest levels has been screaming from the housetops for a couple of decades now, literally, that every presidential election that they've lost since 2020, that's 23 years ago, that's more than 2 decades, that is, every presidential election in the 21st century that the Democrats have lost, they have claimed was stolen. And Donald Trump's not a legitimate president, and George W. Bush not a legitimate president, and they've been saying this since 2020 in Florida, and they contest them, and they drag them through the courts, and they accuse people of things. But if a Republican should do just a small thimbleful of that, then, as Hillary Clinton said, it's the end of democracy. We're a republic, which is a form of democracy, but we're a republic. And Hillary Clinton was at it again yesterday that it's the end of democracy if Donald Trump should do what Hillary Clinton does all the time. Because were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all, just scratching the surface on that. And these people are certifiably insane at this point in time. And I've got a bunch of amazing audio sound bites that I want to play for you that are just extraordinary from Hillary. And we've got Jonathan Turley and Alan Dershowitz, who are legal scholars and legal authorities. Hillary Clinton is just political filth, and she lies constantly, and she's an election denier. And it's kind of ironic that they're doing this in Atlanta, Georgia, where you might find Stacey Abrams, down at the diner. And she still says that the gubernatorial election was stolen from her, and she's unrepentant, and she's fine. Now let's charge her with crimes. Let's find a Republican prosecutor, any county in Georgia, any town in Georgia. Let's start charging them all with conspiracy and violence because they were engaged in all kinds of conspiracies, attacking President Trump, lying to the FISA courts, getting 4 illegal warrants to spy on the political adversaries of the Democrat Party. They call us their enemies because they're the left. They're not liberals. And I really want to see Republican prosecutors across the country, and whether they're city, county, state attorneys general, start charging Democrats with crimes and arrest them, raid their homes, do Paul Manafort on them, and raid their homes and drag them away in handcuffs and charge them with conspiracy and violating the RICO statutes and charge them with crimes, of which in most cases they're entirely guilty. So we'll get to that. Also, the Democrats are working on neo-pronouns because they're gender mental cases. And we got that going. And again, a big oversized man, won a women's weightlifting competition in Canada and got the trophy because the left is mental. And keep them away from the children. Can I just say keep them away? Because everything is about the children these days. You see Skittles now. We still like to, Michael Pierce and I like to say skillets because of the Reverend Al Charlatan and Resist We Much and all of that stuff. I've just mentioned several things that are available on the Chris Plant store, including T-shirts and coffee mugs with Resist We Much and quoting the Reverend Al Charlatan. And, of course, were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. Yeah, so and I love these headlines about the story. But Skillets is now coming after the children. The Skittles, they've got, it's the rainbow thing with them, right? The Skillet, because the different color candies. But now they've decided to convert that into transgenderism for kids. And Halloween is coming up, so don't. And their packaging now has transgender people on the skillets, right? And now has transgender cross-dressers, trannies on their packaging, and with all these crazy slogans, because the Democrats are coming for your children. And honestly, they're Bud Lighting themselves. So now Skittles is getting into a bathtub and opening a vein like Frankie Five Angels too, while the Democrats are introducing a lexicon of neo-pronouns, of new pronouns, because the English language has to be burned to the ground like it's a police station, and the Democrats are up for the task. Pretty amazing stuff. And also in Wisconsin, parents, believe it or not, they still have parents in Wisconsin. The Democrats are taking parents away in the East. But Wisconsin parents raise concerns after transgender athlete allegedly deals girls welts, bruises, because the man is playing against the girls and beating the hell out of them because the Democrat Party is hostile to women. Completely crazy. And the Democrats, also their LGBT drag show for kids had to be canceled in Texas because they were having trouble with raising the funds, the necessary funds to hold their transgender twerking in the faces of children, men disguised as women. Lydia, the tattooed lady, they got the bearded lady. The Democrat Party is a sideshow. It's a circus act, and they're coming for your kids. They're coming for your kids everywhere. And then the Democrats are coming for President Trump, and they're coming for everybody around him, 18 other people in this indictment. Going through my headlines now. We're going to be posting our story. Also in Joe Biden's America, and it's 100% the fault of the Democrats, U.S. suicides, that is suicide in the United States of America, hits an all-time high. Last year, we had an all-time high for suicides. Bidenomics, maybe. Joe Biden's going around smiling and groping women, and the news media is covering it up for him. Now, but this story really got our attention because this is crazy. This is an article in the Globe and Mail. It's in the United Kingdom. That's in England. They're lucky they're not living under the Soviet flag or the Nazi flag, the socialist worker flag of Adolf Hitler. They can just be grateful for another century or two. Sit down and shut up. Here's the headline in the Globe and Mail. The far right's fixation on pedophilia, that is sexual child molestation, is dangerous. And Michael Cohen wrote the story. He's special to the Globe and Mail, and he thinks pedophilia is good. He said, I've just experienced another attack on social media. The harassment on X, as Twitter now calls itself. When are we going to stop saying that? We know what it is. We know it used to be called Twitter, right? And they're called X posts. So just call it an X post. Usually lasts around 36 hours, he types in his paranoid, wretched, pathetic little way. And he said, While most of the nasties and trolls and bots, I can't pretend that the hundreds of comments don't have an effect. I'm a priest, a progressive, outspoken. No point in complaining, as he complains, you dimwit. So, but a disturbing new aspect of these bombardments are the repeated and constant false accusations of pedophilia. Not a libelous dribble, but a flood. So here it is, and he's angry that there is this, and he says it's the far right, he says. That's anybody that's not far left is labeled as far right. And so it's not that I fall into this trap. I think that you should return fire in kind. And when people like the rhetoric that Hillary Clinton is using, that rhetoric should be returned in kind. And honestly, that's why Donald Trump became popular, because Donald Trump was one of the main reasons. Donald Trump was really the first Republican, and perhaps still the only, or almost the only Republican to come along, who returns fire on the Democrats in kind. He sees them using this incendiary, over-the-top rhetoric, and he returns fire in kind. And a great many of us applaud that, because it's about time these people found someone that punched back. And that's what Donald Trump puts on Truth social media. He posts, you hit me, I hit you back. And they charge him with a crime for that. Oh, you're threatening murder or something. No, you guys should stop shooting everybody, though, please, and looting every place, because the Democrat Party really should be brought up on RICO charges, the entire Democrat Party, for okaying, acknowledging, raising bail money like Kamala Harris did for rioters and looters and people attacking the police and so on. But now the far right's fixation on pedophilia is dangerous. Only if you're a pedophile, though. That's the interesting thing about that. And the far right, well, this far left pro-pedophilia lunatic who calls himself a priest, duck, duck, goose, is not a game you want to play with this guy, I'm thinking. But, man, last month, he writes, in Belleville, Ontario, when Justin Trudeau was swarmed by a right-wing mob, one of the hysterical shouts clearly heard was that he was a child molester. No, he just supports gay child sexual abuse in myriad ways. It's grotesque nonsense, he writes, about the prime minister that swamps social media. Well, that's what social media is. It's a swamp. In fact, there are many politicians and activists on the left who haven't been accused of this awful crime. Well, that's good, but you guys are working on it. So the Globe and Mail and this person who claims he's a priest is attacking people that are anti-pedophilia. This brings us back to the analogy that I've appropriately made many times before. During the Cold War with the communists in the Soviet Union, they're here. They would create ballistic missiles, and we created an anti-missile missile. That is a missile that we fire from the ground or from an aircraft or a ship that would shoot down one of the communist missiles that would, murder lots of civilians and innocent people, because that's what the commies do. They murder people on a wholesale scale, better than anybody in history, right? And the anti-missile missile. Now, during the Cold War in the United States, lefties would attack you if you were anti-communist. They wouldn't say they were communists. They wouldn't even say they were pro-communist. But if you were anti-communist, then they were anti-you. Just like an anti-missile missile was anti-missile. See, they would be anti-you. And now you got this creep coming out in the UK who attacks anybody that's anti-pedophilia. That means he is pro-pedophilia. He's proving that by attacking everyone that is anti-pedophilia. It's kind of a passive-aggressive approach to being pro-pedophilia. You don't come out and say you're pro-pedophile. You just come out and attack people that are anti-pedophile, like the anti-missile missile. It's the Cold War all over again. And the far right's fixation on pedophilia is dangerous. See, then, like the left does everywhere, they declare your speech to be dangerous. President Trump posts something on Truth social media saying, you punch me, I punch back, and they charge you with a crime. It's a speech crime. It's a thought crime. It's George Orwell's worst nightmare. It's the left. It is totalitarianism. It is authoritarianism. It is the Democrat Party in the 21st century. They are not Democrats. They're leftists. They're not liberals. They're leftists. Just an amazing time to be alive. And the Democrats yesterday in Georgia, they fired on Fort Sumter. You know, it was the Democrats that fired on Fort Sumter, a Union fort that really sparked the American Civil War. And the Democrat president of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, brought that full force. Yesterday, did the Democrats fire on Fort Sumter again? They pick these fights and their rhetoric. Wait till you hear Hillary Clinton last night from Maddow, and wait till you hear Maddow. This is pretty extraordinary stuff. As you know, Lola is the theme song of the Democrat Party in the 21st century. Boys will be girls and girls will be boys. It's a mixed up world. She's a mixed up girl. That was Lola. That's the Democrat Party. And when do you hear the shoplifting stories and more fleeing businesses? Democrats creating another food desert in Washington, D.C. because, I don't know, Michael, are they all criminals? And my jury duty story, speaking of which, we're at 888-630-9625. All right, the mad world that the Democrats are burning to the ground around us. Right after the top of the hour, so much great stuff. I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll try to get to it all. Right now, let's go to Rob, calling from Montgomery County, Maryland, which is crazy land for Democrats. Rob, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, it's good to talk to you again, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, the People's Republic here. It's a wonderful place. Always a wonderful day in all the multiple neighborhoods. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, real brief. Just wanted to thank Barack Obama, Meritless Garland, Christopher Wray, and all their acolytes for ruining our country. And, something I wanted to point out that I wanted to bring out, the lady, or should I say the girl wannabe guy that killed the 3 9-year-olds and the 3 61-year-olds, how all these things just seem to dissipate and disappear from the media, that manifest was never released to the public.
Yes, at the Christian school, right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they can make, that's what information dominance is all about, Rob, and cultural dominance. They can make these stories disappear and other stories live forever.